talk about the end of the year. Let's wrap everything up, put a nice bow on 2024. Well, it's been a year. There's been a sequence of months that we all lived through, and here we are on the edge of 2025. Oh, these are actually good highlights. I don't think I'll be very curious if they include Aaron Bushnell, because that to me is still one of the most impactful things to have happened this year. Of course, like the ongoing genocide in Gaza, you can't really not talk about that. That is almost certainly going to get worse. Almost certainly going to get worse. Trump ordered to pay $83.3 million for defaming E. Jean Carroll. The award includes $11 million for damages to her reputation, punitive damages. Trump stormed out of the courtroom before the jury reached its verdict. He was already found liable for defaming Carroll while he was president for mocking her claim he had sexually abused her. Trump also testified at the trial for just under 5 minutes, during which he clashed with the judge and called her accusations false. When's the Iowa caucuses? No shit. No charges against Biden, never classified documents. Do not care. Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell, son fucking Downing. I'm watching his career with great interest. I hope he, yeah. Mitch McConnell is just going to be like a fun little surprise. You know, you're just going to wake up one day and just be like, oh, Mitch McConnell. Wow. What a day. I'm going to treat myself. I've been good lately. I think I'm going to have fries, not the salad. And you know what? I will have dessert. I'll have dessert. For Mitch. Pouring one out for Mitch. You know what I mean? Turtle Club. Am I right? Come on. That was in February. So, yeah, what did I say? They completely skipped over February. They completely skipped over Aaron Bushnell. Ooh, you know what? Alex Jones from a heart attack. Alex Jones from a heart attack is good. No, Musk I don't think is going to be natural causes. Musk I think will be I'm putting it out into the world. I'm manifesting, y'all. I don't need to tell y'all. Y'all know what I'm saying. You know what I'm thinking. Come on. We like to have fun here. We like to joke. Let's not get greedy. The misanthropic. I hope Musk from a freak accident. Hey, let me tell you. Any accident Elon Musk is involved in is a freak accident. Am I right? Come on. Up high. Come on. Having fun. This is fun. Yeah. Having to depend on the whims of Mother Nature to hopefully see any kind of deliverance in the modern world. This is great. Life is, it's like that old saying, life is like a slot machine, and you almost always lose. Yeah, so they completely miss Aaron Bushnell's self-immolation, for those who don't remember. Aaron Bushnell, United States Air Force member, set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. I have very complicated feelings on this, because this was like right when I was in D.C. And yeah, it was barely reported on for many of the same reasons that a lot of the other things, the other big seismic shifts this year, probably Luigi Mangione is another really big thing that I'm curious what they say. I don't think MSNBC could get away with not talking about Luigi because it just happened, but I'm curious what they say. We'll get to that in a second. Arizona Supreme Court rules that near total abortion ban from 1864 is enforceable. Very fun, very fun. We had a lot of abortion stuff. Yeah, Roe Wade was this year, right? Or was that last year? I think that was last year. I think it all fucking blends together. 2022, good God, where's time gone? Supreme Court hears Trump immunity case. Fantastic picture for this. Oh yeah, end of April, the Supreme Court heard Trump's presidential immunity case, with arguments centering on whether a former president can be prosecuted for official acts. It ruled that Trump had some immunity for some of his alleged conduct. The justices voted 6-3 to reject Trump's broad claim of immunity, meaning the charges related to his attempts to overturn the 2020 elections results would not be dismissed. But they did eventually get dismissed, so none of it fucking matters, and yeah, he can basically do whatever he wants. Who gives a fuck? Arizona governor signs a bill that will allow abortions up to 15 weeks into pregnancy. Signed a repeal of the state's near total abortion ban. Trump becomes the first former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime. Jury reached its verdict after 9.5 hours of deliberations. Trump had pleaded not guilty to falsifying business records related to a hush money payment. Stormy Daniels. Blah, blah, blah. Trump was originally set to be sentenced in July, but as of late December, sentencing was still pending, and the judge had denied the president-elect's bid to vacate his guilty verdict on presidential immunity grounds, which you better believe we're gonna fucking see. Hunter Biden convicted of 3 felony counts. Oh God, the Trump-Biden debate. Oh my God. I feel there's so much they're missing here. What other shit happened? Oh, fucking... You know what else started kicking off around February? Now that we're well past it. Yeah, for people who make video games, 2024 was a year of holding on for dear life. At the annual Game Developers Conference in March, Survive Till 25 was this year's incantation, summoned to keep morale in place. Others resorted to full-on screams as layoffs in the industry charted record highs and developers found themselves under attack online for conspiratorial nonsense. One of the other big cultural shifts this year, cultural developments, let's say, has been the emergence of Gamergate 2, which is mostly just a bunch of incredibly sad losers on Twitter bitching and moaning about everything, but has led to continued and lasting harassment of real-world people, like Alyssa Mercante, friend of the show, Alyssa. Two Spectral Wolves, thank you for following. As the industry faltered, gamers suffered. High-profile releases like Suicide Squad, not a good game. While there were many reasons for this, online right-wing groups reduced it to a single mantra: go woke, go broke. By their logic, if a game does poorly and has a whiff of diversity, be it regarding gender, sexuality, or race, that disappointing performance is the fault of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. I talk about... I go into all of this in greater detail in the Synthetic Man video, so I don't want to draw it out too much, but I will say that I think the emphasis on DEI and the continued rise of open fascism are inextricably linked in the modern culture, and I don't think anybody can really pretend otherwise, which is why I wanted to talk about this. For indie developers specifically, the threat to their existence has been substantial. Dozens of small studios shuttered in 2024, though it's difficult to get a full picture of how many indie studios in the industry lost, as they're more likely to shut down quietly and without much fanfare, or before many players even know they exist. With dwindling opportunities to get funding from investors and little cash to go around, developers sought alternative methods to fund their games. Some took bankrolling into their own hands. Among Us creator Indersloth launched an initiative to help others. Blah, blah. Even studios owned by tech juggernauts weren't immune to the industry's contraction. Microsoft shuttered Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, which to this day fucking pisses me off. Sony shut down Firewalk. The latter's shuttering wasn't wholly surprising. Its big 2024 release, Conquered, was largely considered a flop, but having a hit didn't give any studios a safety net. Near universal acclaim for Tango's Hi-Fi Rush didn't stop Microsoft's axe. The big thing here, and this is something that moving forward, I think we're going to keep seeing it. One of the other political developments I want to talk about is the Matt Walsh, the growing, regrettable influence of dipshits like Matt Walsh and Haya Reichik. That, I think, reached a critical mass today, unfortunately. Reached a critical mass this year. Yeah. This one hit home for me. Game Informer shutting down was... Game Informer means a lot to me. It was one of my big... Both me and friend of the channel, Riverboat Jack, it was both... For both of us, we interned there. When we were doing journalism, it was a big foot into the industry that allowed me to pursue other jobs writing all across the industry. And the way it was shuttered by GameStop is galling, to say the least. It was a place of such ridiculous passion and love for the industry, for video games, for the art and creativity behind them, that I'm really glad a couple years ago, thankfully, Frank Cifaldi went through all the Game Informer archives, and I believe that he like printed and took, because the thing at Game Informer is that they had, a lot of people don't know this because it's a little bit of inside baseball, but like they would get, way back in the day, in the early 2000s especially, they would get dev kits, so like that could run specific demos. So if they were getting like a show floor demo to review and play at the office, it would be unfinished copies of the game. So it would, like, they had content that was never seen from like major fucking games. Like we're talking like Metal Gear Solid shit, with content that nobody outside the industry would have ever seen or known about, because they would be slightly changed by the time it reached the market. Like, because all of these games were still in development. Sometimes it would be a year, multiple years out. I think they even had, I want to say they had a copy of like the StarCraft Ghost demo, the infamously like canceled Blizzard joint. And they were just like everybody there loved video games so fucking much. And it was what I fucking thought about, was just the time I spent there with the editors there, talking to them, getting to know them. It's what I think about every fucking time I see some dork on the internet be like, oh, gaming journalists don't love games. You're activists who, like, any gaming journalist, doesn't matter where they fucking worked, to get to that point, they know games and love games way fucking more than any dipshit 4chan Kiwi Farms dork that is complaining about game journalists. And on top of that, they were a huge part of my journey into creating content. They were a massive part of like the original Game Informer team behind things like Replay and Super Replay. Thankfully, there's a dedicated team or a dedicated group of people that have managed to keep all of that stuff, I believe, online. But like Replays and Super Replay, the Overblood Facebook group, like so much of it is just gone. Like they had sealed copies of incredibly rare games. They had a like comprehensive library of almost every game from the last 30 fucking years. A huge part of the like, I don't think people understood how much of the industry was reflected and stored within places like Game Informer. And somebody asking, how do you feel about gaming journalism right now? I feel really fucking awful. Like, so many outlets and places are being strip mined by investors. Even though it's still technically around, like Giant Bomb is a, like, and I love the crew. I love the crew that's there, but it's a shell of what it was. It's deeply depressing. It is deeply depressing because, like, there's so many people who love games and want an outlet to talk about them, and it doesn't get nearly the attention anymore. Like if you want to do game journalism right now, you don't want to go into an outlet. You don't want to fucking try and be at IGN, which, like, IGN is maybe the most corporate mandated slop out there. Like, they will do anything to preserve their image. So you want to be at a place with, like, you know, scruples. But there's so few of those out there that aren't being fucking stripped for parts, that aren't constantly undergoing layoffs like Polygon and Kotaku and everything else. Yeah, it's just bleak. Yeah, no, exactly. The smallest fist. It feels like the journalism that's taking over some chud Twitter feed about how woke games have become when the issues are way off games being woke. That's exactly the problem, is that, like, it is one of these things, it is, how do you put it? It's a parallel to all the other little bits of content in our current content landscape, where the things that get more attention have been driven to you, to your eyes, to everybody's eyes, by algorithms, and the things that continue to propagate and proliferate negativity, that continue to get those clicks and engagements, will always rise to the top in those algorithms. Because the algorithms that are from places like YouTube and Google and Twitter and all this stuff, they have no intention of procuring or promoting a public good. They have no love or appeal to if somebody worked harder on one thing than another, if something is more in-depth than something else. They are based solely on sensationalism because that is what will get them more ad dollars. And this has continued to dig into the sides of the game industry, which is why we're dealing with what it's dealing with now. And yeah, so I did want to call attention to some of that shit because I think it is a big part of like what is like I said, it is a parallel to almost everything else happening, because traditional media is also facing a very similar problem, where although I will say traditional media has more of a boutique problem. I was talking to my family about this over the year, where like you can't have places like fucking not New York Post. Is it the Washington Post? Democracy Dies in Darkness, where they will be like, yeah, no, democracy dies in darkness. Give us $10 a month to fucking read an article where we're telling you information that may or may not be important and may or may not affect your outlook on the world around you and the politics happening. Because most people are just going to look at that and keep fucking scrolling, compared to somebody on Twitter sharing fucking misinformation, sharing a video out of context, where people will take that and imbibe that as actual news. Like, it's a big problem. It's a big fucking problem. That is talking about all the shit that happened in the game industry, which has been bleak. If I had to judge, guess, predict the rest of the industry or what's going to happen for video games in the next couple of years, I think we are going to see a major cooling effect. It is not tenable for games to continue being as big as they are. And oh God, like I want to see fucking just... Once upon a time, tentpole releases were like it was a term for like major publisher games. Like those were the tentpole releases. You know, Xbox, Microsoft, like everybody has their game of the season, right? Like holidays come around, September, October, August, they put out a big game so it can be on discount for Black Friday. They can sell as much as they want. You know, of a Halo or a Gears of War or fucking, you know, Zelda, not always, but like Mario, something like that, right? And now tentpole releases have an entirely different meaning, where they mean they are literally the things keeping the industry alive. Where like fucking goddamn, yeah, anyway. It is the only thing holding it all up. Trump and Biden face off in debate. God damn. Do you remember? Is there going to be another crash? I don't think so. I think there's too much of an industry that's been established for a crash as much, because people are, oh, you know, the video game crash of the 80s, which the video game crash with Atari was caused by oversaturation. Yeah, no, we watched the debate live. It was a fucking nightmare. Yeah, you remember? Oh, man. You remember when the Dems were trying to pretend like Joe Biden was, like, functional? When they were like, no, he's got this. And he went out, and it was just like 2 hours of, well, that's, now, listen here, and the thing you gotta know is that back in my day, I knew you took a girl down to the soda fountain, you played jacks, and that's where, anyway, Mr. President, you still have 2 minutes. And then that was just the debate, and everybody like, I felt like I was going fucking insane. Like make no mistake, there were murmurings coming out about like, hey, maybe Joe shouldn't run. Hey, maybe we should put Kamala in there. Was Kamala good enough? Like, oh no, let's do Pete Buttigieg. Like it was decided. The fate of the country was locked in far earlier than fucking June. It was when they decided, hey, we're going to run Biden. Because even though here, for all the myriad problems with Kamala's campaign, make no mistake about it, The fact that we talked about it on stream, but how they've completely mismanaged the spending and the funds, the massive influx of donations that the likes of which nobody's ever seen before were just fucking thrown out the window. They didn't pay any attention to outreach to black or impoverished communities. They focused on all these fucking big stunts. Like, you could go on and on about the centrist ass push to the right, to appealing to like right-wing quote unquote populism, which what they mean when they say that is nationalism, trying to play fucking great value Trump. Like, all that shit you can point to as entirely valid reasons why Kamala ended up losing. But probably first and foremost above any of those is the fact that Kamala wasn't fucking running a campaign until like there was 4 months left, until basically the Democratic convention. And here's the thing, as much as this was, and this was overblown, at the time I thought this would have a bigger impact. If anything, much like with Luigi, I think this exposed an undercurrent of bloodlust for the political ruling class in America, where I had never seen so much. And I think this speaks to the, you know, oh, we're so divided as a country, which we are. But I think it speaks to that I heard so many people I would not have fucking expected it from, being like, it's a shame they missed. Which is like to me, that was the bigger outcome of this, rather than like, you know, this epic photo, which it was, but I think ultimately the symbolism, the meaning behind all this shit means more to the fucking Trump people who are already deifying him than it does to anybody else. And I wanted to address, I think, probably one of the worst things culturally. Again, all this is kind of tied together in a big jumbled mess, but I want to talk about, if I had to say the worst outcome of the year, outside of, you know, the incoming Trump presidency, outside of just the placation of liberals to rising tide of fascism in America. But those aside, probably worst of the year for me is the acquiescence, the cowering to conservative narratives. And you see this in things like DEI. You see this in things like representation. You see this in rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies over every industry. And it is now manifesting itself in both media that is being noticeably less critical to people like Trump, to people like the conservative establishment. Or if they are, they're trying to meter that criticism so not to seem too terribly biased against things that are entirely valid to criticize and talk about. But also starting to lift people up and pay more attention to projects like Matt Walsh. And it is a great failing of culture right now that any of these voices are being lifted up, but they're being lifted up through money, through capital, through the interest of people like Donald Trump, like Elon Musk, like Vivek Ramaswamy, so that they can continue making money, so they can continue preying on the fears that they are quite literally, in the case of people like Elon, selling to people. And in the case of Matt Walsh. One of the worst things that could continue happening is that we're going to keep seeing this breakdown of trying to push for representation, trying to push for artistic expression in favor of appealing to, you know, conservative moral values or whatever the fuck. Now, what does this mean for big companies like Disney? I don't know. I couldn't fucking tell you what it's going to look like in 5-6 years. I think ultimately, you know, I've talked about it before, but like, you don't depend on big corporations and companies to get your representation, to get your stories told. If you have a story to tell, go write it, go get it made, go figure it out on your own. Because you can't rely on sanded down fucking corporate slop like Disney makes to deliver those stories to you. Like, people, like, don't be one of these fucking people who's like watching that fucking Agatha spinoff of WandaVision and being like, oh my gosh, they showed two women kissing, this is so monumental. It's not 2024 pro-Palestine protests on university campuses, campus protests over the Gaza war, the U.S. colleges raise stakes for protests, campus protests where there were a whole bunch of accusations of anti-Semitism, which is fucking bullshit. I wonder why. This was something that was I talked to on or I talked about with my family, as my uncle asked me, what do you think, like, why do you think there's just less investigative journalism now from major outlets? And I said, like, probably because the people who own those outlets have an interest in things not being investigated. And that's what I'm thinking of in the NBC article we just went over. Why did the thing on the biggest political developments of the year leave out campus protests in Gaza, Aaron Bushnell's self-immolation, Luigi Mangione shooting the healthcare CEO? It's probably because they don't want people thinking about those things in the context of being big moments. But they were. For anybody paying attention, they were. AI is another thing that fucking exploded this year that I cannot... my first video, in-depth video of the year is going to be a script I wrote and basically finished and recorded months ago. And then I started working on the documentary I just finished up. Please go check it out on the channel. But about the AI takeover of shitty indie games, like just shovelware indie games in PlayStation X, mostly PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. The storefronts are just being clogged with tons and tons of these fucking games that are made by these Eastern European developers. And it is like that we are on the bottom level of AI right now and where it's going to go in the next couple years. Because as much as, and this is something I've talked about, I've told you all this before, so many people want to take the anti-AI stance, not on the merits of it, which is what you should do, but because it's like, oh, it looks ugly. Like that's the thing they do. It's this very, like, it reminds me of the way liberals used to talk about Trump, and they were like, oh, Drump. Remember Drump? Remember that shit? I remember fucking saying Covfefe as like an own. Like it's you are not actually attacking the core of the issue. You are just like kind of vaguely gesturing and insulting it. It's very surface level. The more worrying aspect of AI is, instead of how bad it still looks, how soulless and shitty it looks every time some 23-year-old fucking tech bro fail son makes an animated film that just pulls from, Pixar, and it's like 10 seconds long and every character looks different in every frame, and he's like, this is where AI is going. The problem isn't that it looks bad. The problem is that it looks so much better than it did 2 years ago. Like, so much better. And it is a matter of time until it's, and like the things I'm worried about, the impact of AI on art, on expression, on writing, on creativity, on moderation. Like I am worried that it's fucking everywhere already. Yeah, that it steals from genuine artists, that it is soulless, there's so many things are wrong with AI art. But the real thing that I'm most worried about is the completely unchecked advancement of it and how that is going to come to affect real life political developments. And yeah, it's becoming so normalized, it's really concerning. Like, it just overnight, seemingly, people just started doing it. Like I've had my mom send me shit generated with AI, and I'm like, oh no, like this is like it's horrendous for the environment, and they want to keep stocking it up because it's this bubble. Like economically, it's a bubble. I don't think in terms of tech, it's a bubble. The crypto bubble did its thing, but like I don't think we're gonna see the same bubble popping with AI in the same way. Because it has, unfortunately, for a lot of just assholes out there, it has a lot more utility than crypto does. Because we are going to see more and more people attempting to make more and more propaganda using AI. And you have somebody like Elon Musk. You have somebody like Donald Trump, who are now closely tied together, who have very few scruples about lying, about spreading baseless propaganda, about just late epic trolling or whatever the fuck. Well, no, non-atheistic, which we're entering a second dark age, but rather than abandoning science for faith, we are abandoning humanity for greed. Unfortunately, I think we're doing both Actually, that's the fun part about another thing. God, sorry to be so dour. It's just like these are all trends that I've been really contemplating and thinking about a lot this year. And looking back at everything, and I'm just like, oh gosh, it really does all come together. And you're going to have people continue to eat each other, like we've seen with Vivek and the rest of the right wing and Musk. But it is still moving society and moving culture towards this grander ideal of a right-wing regressive project. And that's regression is the point, right? From everything we've talked about in gaming journalism, DEI movements, your fucking AI, like it is all in service of regressing, not progressing, regressing representation, diversity, standards of care and living, medical care, like you name it. It is all for regressing acceptable standards of life and culture in the name of making rich people more and more fucking money. And I think one of those big regressions has been religion. Not necessarily just like, oh, people, you know, hey, I'm religious or I believe in God or I go to, you know, chapel 3 times a week, like whatever. Less that and more the fact that it is now not an uncommonly held belief among what politicians are saying, or people in the political ruling class, that like demons are real and can manifest themselves. Like a lot of people really skipped over the Tucker Carlson interview from a couple months ago, where he was like, yeah, no, I got attacked by a demon when like his dog fucking scratched him in the middle of the night or some shit. Like that's somebody who is intricately tied with the Trump movement, with people like Alex Jones, with people like Elon Musk. Like there is a incredibly worrying trend towards, like, I can't even call it conspiratism because it is, or conspiracy because it is, like, it is so far beyond any tangible reality. Like, it really is. People have noted it before. It really is some fucking, like, it's peasant brain. It's peasant brain. We have peasant brain on the rise in America. But yeah, all of this shit, like, it all wraps together in the greater right-wing project of regressing America. And part of that goes to, like look at how these conspiracies in the last couple of years, you can connect the dots from shit like COVID, from shit like QAnon, all the way to people like big accounts, people with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers on Twitter, talking about demons being real and satanic cabals. Like, you can connect the fucking dots. From vaccine conspiracies spreading anti-science to people like RFK Jr. continuing to spread those same disproven theories from a position of power, determined to start making it the law of the land. Yeah, exactly. Dio Strongest Soldier, thank you, $4.99. Anti-intellectualism and pro-AI is literally the goal. Make reality harder to discern, to control people easier. And I hate, like, saying it like that, which is a very succinct way to put it. You put it very well. But saying it like that makes it seem like a conspiracy, but that's literally just what's fucking happening. Like, the world is just getting so crazy. That's literally what's happening. Jana Bledsoe, thank you for $2. AI in the justice system will be our game over moment. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, and that's the part that hurts. You're not wrong at all. Cryo General on Twitch. As a healthcare worker, I'm haunted by the idea that eventually it'll become commonplace that patients think stuff like there's ghosts in my blood or something. I mean, like when you say it like that, it sounds far more ridiculous than the parlance we're used to, right? Like we are used to, like, that is ridiculous. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, there's ghosts in my blood, you go, okay, I'm going to get you on some gabapentin. We're going to get a psychiatrist in here to talk to you. Like, the phrasing, it's all in the phrasing, right? But the wording, the phrasing of movements like QAnon, where you have concepts like adrenochrome, where you have concepts like demonic sacrifice. Like, it's honestly not fucking far off. It's not far off at all. I want to talk about Luigi Mangione, which we really don't need to talk. Like, we've spent plenty of time. Everybody knows about Luigi at this point. Last month, he killed a healthcare CEO, and the entire country just kind of went, cool. Well, not the entire country. But it really cemented a divide. And this is something that's been kind of borne out, because what I said at the time was it exposed the actual divide in America is not between right and left. That is kind of the divide that's forced between us. But the actual divide of class solidarity is between the rich, the ruling class, and the poor. And I think that the current controversy on Twitter really bears that out, because you have dipshit Nazis who have, I'm willing to bet, backgrounds in being more poor, who have bought into white nationalist ideology, or at least insofar as believing in things like white replacement theory and all that shit, right? But they're coming into conflict with, what materially they're coming into conflict with, is people like Vivek and Elon trying to continue making more money by subverting that white nationalism. So I think that's just another example of what we're going to see, and I think that's going to be, again, a growing rift that we're going to continue seeing exposed. I think this is a shift that we have not yet seen the full ramifications of. I think what happened with Luigi has made a lot of people think, probably most importantly in the ruling classes, because you better believe, like we were just talking about with the NBC article we just brushed up on, you better fucking believe that the people in charge, the people at the top of the food chain, are noticing how everybody else is treating it, are noticing what everybody else is saying in praising him. Because they are. Like, immediately after that, like how many security firms were talking about, like, oh, we don't have enough staff because people keep wanting to up their security details. It scared the shit out of everybody who have lived life with their boots on the throat of the rest of America. And you know what? Hey, I'm not saying if it was justified or not. I'm not saying if it was justified or not to enact revenge on somebody who causes the deaths of people on a daily basis. A healthcare CEO who has blood on his hands, who enacted AI algorithms to remove the human component of deciding who lives and who dies. Am I saying that's deserved? I'm not saying. But I'm saying a lot of people thought that was a good thing. A lot of people looked at that and shrugged. At the on the middle of the scale, they shrugged. And I think, again, that is something. There's so many things we've talked about tonight with just the kind of growing bloodlust in America, the growing taste, understanding, the growing centering of violence. I think we are entering a new and uncharted territory, and it's fucking scary.